The fundamental right to life, liberty, security, and dignity. Gender-based violence is one-sided violence that is perpetuated by a certain gender. It creates inequality, discrimination, and it kills your physical and mental integrity.
Gender peace and security is to allow women to be visible and to create independence.
It implies a synergy, a complementary state when violence and profit profit a society or country.
We need external and internal peace and security. Women are the priorities for the world to succeed. Inti mipilo sitisi azama sipile sifule. Inti mipilo sitisi azama sipile sifule. Inti mipilo sitisi azama sipile sifule. Sipile sifule. Sipile sifule. What I did not say, I was never told. I never said it, but I listened. I never said what I wanted to say. To say, listen. Listen to the sounds of women screaming and shouting for soundless help. Ah! Listen. What I did not say, I was never told. I never said it, but I listened. To every sound and soundless silence that influenced me to say, it's enough! The way I cried. The way I cried. The way I cried. The way I cried. He pierced and penetrated through my breast straight to my heart, right like a needle of the same kind. That man used to torture women. I cried unconsciously as he brutalized my innocence. I cried.
And she was supposed to be my brother.
And she was supposed to be my cousin.
And she was supposed to be my uncle.
And she was supposed to be my backbone. I cried unconsciously as he brutalized my innocence. I cried. I wailed and wept in a state of trauma. He tattered my clothes and forced me to spray my legs. Repeatedly, he ripped me apart. The way I cried. The way I cried. Yes, I'm a woman. Yes, the tears are my tears. Why leave me with scars that made me to ask myself always, why me? We cried, we daughters of men being victimized by evil souls of men. Evil souls of men! The way I cried. The way I cried. Your pain, my pain, not the same pain, but don't panic. I feel your pain.
I feel your pain from the barrels of my belly. Not that I have sympathy nor feel sorry, but I feel your pain.
Not the same pain that strikes my heart and leaves unwanted scars in my soul.
Sure, I agree. The level is not the same pain, but I feel your pain.
Your pain, my pain, not the same pain, but don't panic. I feel your pain. We have 6 girls. 6 girls. Now, it must be a boy. It must be a boy. I go see on Kwenkwe. I go we are deep.
You know we need it.
Tata.
You know we need it.
Tata.
You Kwenkwe na leo.
Hi, Tata.
You know we need it.
Tata.
Jiteni na kuwe.
Hi, Tata. The doctor said if I don't stop having children, I'm putting myself and the child at risk.
You have the nerve to tell me what the doctor has said. What about what I have said? You know we need it.
Tata.
Ulala na kukha wena.
Hi, Tata.
Ulala na onke amadoda aphelalizi. Adishekayo.
Hi, Tata.
You know we need it.
Tata.
Puma. Dithi puma. Undibuyelele ndlalifa yami. Uyadiva.
Women and girls don't understand feminism as a movement to liberate us from the struggles we face. They don't understand who to fight, how to fight, and what to fight for. Alongside our male counterparts, our anatomy is to be obedient, follow orders, surrender, don't question anything, bear children with each other. After all that is done, you are considered a cheap price. You are considered to be ugly. You are considered shapeless, uneducated mother. You are considered a fool.
You fool.
Low-bladed species.
Hey!
You were conceived wrong.
No!
Named wrong. And raised
And if communities said, we don't tolerate a man here who abuses women, we can go a long way. If we were to really do something about men who abuse women. You know, there is an area, I won't name here, that we are going to go to with Home Affairs and ourselves as Department of Women, where we have been alerted by one of the NGOs that a lot of children there don't have birth certificates, they don't have IDs. And we said, why? It says because their mothers don't know what to say when they go to Home Affairs. They don't know what to say because I must now say, this child's father is my father. They don't know what to say because they must now say this child's father is my brother or is my uncle. So they keep quiet and they don't go to Home Affairs. Yes, what they're talking about here happens. And I also went to a meeting where there were religious people and so on, and they were saying young boys are angry because women, their mothers are not telling them about who their fathers are. I said, have you ever thought that their fathers may be their fathers? So how do you say your grandfather is your father to a child? What does that do to the child and to you? So we have now discussed with Home Affairs. We'll just say, as long as you give us the mothers, it's fine. You don't need to know about the father. So this abuse is real. Starting from the family that was disrupted and goes out to we are not safe in the streets, even in church. We know there are priests in court for that, so it means we are not even safe in church. So it's something that we have to fight against and give women the space where they can be able to talk about these things. I've learned that as Africans, we must either unite or we will perish, as Kwame said once. Because the future depends on how we collectively utilize what we have. You know, we, as human beings, have created a society where you have to pay to survive. Yes. The only thing we don't pay for, the only thing we're not going to pay for today when we're sitting here eating and doing whatever is oxygen. And you don't pay for oxygen only if you're not in hospital. If you need it in hospital, you pay for it. We pay for water. I mean, the three essential things for survival: it's oxygen, water, food. The only thing we don't pay for is oxygen. There is no other species that has to pay to survive. It's us. And that's not God-given. The universe didn't create it like that. It has been the greed of human beings that has created that society. The water, the energy, the food, human security, everything. So Our unity will assist us in utilizing those resources for ourselves. We have rare minerals, we have everything. But why haven't we used it to develop ourselves? We still take it to Europe. As they came to fetch it, we still send it. That must stop. And women must be at the forefront of making sure that we utilize what we have. I've also learned that once you know who you are and who you were, and what you had and what you lost and what you have to get back, we are halfway through truly being educated. Suddenly, the purpose of education to you is no longer to get a piece of paper called the degree or the certificate, or join the line of seeking jobs. Once you are historic enough, you then understand what Marcus Garvey said, and I quote, that powerful people never educate powerless people. Think about it. Why should a powerful person educate a powerless person properly? If you are powerful, you educate the powerless to remain powerless, not to become powerful like yourself. So why do we expect powerful people to educate us? Right? Because once they educate us properly, we'll take their power away. Won't we? Yes. The oppressed will take the power from the oppressed.
I want to speak to 3 ideas of relevance on the curatorial approach for the Thabo Mbeki Presidential Center, to provoke and to also invite you to imagine the curatorship of what these granaries will emerge to be. The first idea being the granary as an institutional space. Secondly, as we curate what goes into the granary, mapping the historiography of the African women. And thirdly, and perhaps to pose the question, how do we curate? But before I go into the 3, I want to acknowledge one of those whom I followed and walk in our path. And that's Mum Brigalia Bum, who's sitting in the front row here. She was the forerunner and the first chair of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation and Board of Trustees. And she, along with Mum Zanele and a group of other women, younger women, sat in the space to debate and discuss this. And I must tell you, it was a fascinating intergenerational debate, but you'll hear that play out in the various breakaway rooms. Mam Flope, I recognize you, I respect you, and I remember your words when I took over the chair. I won't share that now. We'll keep that for the fireside chat that everyone would want to be part of, because they know there were some words there. So the first idea of the granary as institutional. A granary in a community is an institution of, and I quote, food preservation in society, particularly in rural areas, which basically has the main purpose to overcome food insecurity in bad season and during natural disaster, close quotes. The granary, as explained, was the first structure in the history of architecture that was not predominantly ceremonial or domestic in nature. Today, we see agriculture usually through the lens of production, but ancient agriculture was inevitably tied to rituals that not only controlled human activity in the calendar of seasons, but also added magical potency to the activity of farming, close quotes. Particularly in the African continent, agriculture is one of the main sources of income in rural areas. Therefore, a granary in a modern space equally holds the same functions as a place of preservation, conservation, sustenance, migration, mitigation, and heritage. Of this, the articulation of granary warrants a reflection of historical fact. We should all know of Queen Mujaji of the Bakulubedi Bedu people, who as a leader is gifted with the ability to make rain, to sustain the livelihoods of her people. So the relationship between agriculture and ritual here, your role in the community, is a point I wish to stress. So the granary as an institutional space can be seen as host to practices, rituals, and contributions of people within and with their societies.
The first challenge I faced as a woman was the decision to leave my family behind and step into a future and a life I could not even imagine. The second one, which is separate but distinct and second challenge, was the separation from my babies. The depth of this pain is known only to a mother of a stillborn baby. A few weeks after being in Swaziland, injury was added to pain when an official of the UNHCR tried to abuse his position, tempting me by saying he could arrange for me to be reunited with my babies. I told him no thank you. All other challenges pale into insignificance when compared to this moment in my life. And all three challenges are part of this moment. The whole period of exile, taken as a single experience, constituted the big challenge of life. Learning everything anew. The whole wide world is new, and you have to take it in while also grappling with memory, missing the children in particular. Alongside, there were survival issues one had to participate in everywhere you went. Then there was the world you were stepping into, political life. In its multi-dimensional reality, the organization, the structures, the tasks, and the roller coaster I am still attempting to disembark today at 74.
Ngiyafisa ukuthi kube khona ikhathi lama sihlangene khona sikhuluma isintu, and those who are currently disadvantaged who do not speak our languages bazothola ama earphones. Because there are certain things that are not sayable in our mother tongues. Inkululeko must not make us apologize about our languages. And then I'm going to talk about things that speak to this thing of our stories. As Grace Nichols Maeti, I am a long-memoried woman. She's talking about each and every one of you. You are a long-memoried woman. And those stories that you have, you carry them with you. Very rarely are you given an opportunity to share your own story. Very rarely. And then journalists come up with this question. They say, why do you tell stories? Do you ask a lawyer, why are you a lawyer? Do you ask a brain surgeon, why? Huh? Yeah, but vice chancellor. They ask me, and I'm ready with the answer every day, every week, every month, every year. Simple. I tell stories in order to wake up stories in other people. That's why. That's why. Because everybody here has got a story to tell. Then comes the fact that we've got such hectic overlapping schedules. Sometimes it's unwake-upable in the morning. Sorry if there's an English teacher here. But sometimes it's unwake-upable. And when those days hit you, you are no longer this you just can't get out of bed. Do I have to? And then I remember my mantra. And I say it out loud. Until we see a brighter future in our children's eyes, not much of what we do today has any value. I repeat, until we see a brighter future in our children's eyes, not much of what we do today has any value. Singaliboni ikusasa eliqhakazile emehlweni ezingane zethu okuningi esikwenza namuhla kuyizeleze. When we have events, I ask everybody who speaks a different language, whether it's Chivenda or Isipedi or Isixhosa, stand up, say for me, until we see a brighter future in our children's eyes. Not much of what we do today has any value. Bainyathela bezome stage saying this saying in their own mother tongues. So it's part and parcel of our events. Because umsebenzi eswenzayo as mothers here, what's a mother without a child? What's a mother without a child? Lo msebenzi ubaluleke in such an amazing. When I saw the children, my heart did somersaults. Mangibona labantwana they were outside, and then I didn't even know what they were going to do here on stage. It is extremely important for us then to know.
Let me say that to try to set the scene for the spiritual life discussion. Firstly, it's so wonderful that spiritual life is so upfront in this program today. Many of us women have deep and active spiritual lives, but we don't really talk about it. We take it as something personal, quiet. And actually, spiritual life is the foundation and the font of everything. And we really celebrate the opportunity to bring it to the fore today. What is spiritual life? To me, it has two streams. It has the stream of our own soul. We are told in our tradition, Haneshama, the soul that God has given each one of us is pure. If God has given us a soul that is pure, it is our life's work to magnify the soul, to take that light that we are given at birth and to grow that light, to magnify it. That is the aim of life. And spiritual life is therefore a personal journey of magnification of the soul. But religious life has always been, everywhere, the life of community. What is any religious place? A church, a mosque, a synagogue, a temple. It is a place of community, and is a place in which women commune with one another. And for me, these are the two streams of spiritual life. The one that happens internally, and the communities that we build together in spiritual life.
But perhaps what I need to relate about spirituality at this point in time, Chairperson, is perhaps to define what spirituality is. A spirituality can be defined as the universal code in search for direction. But from an African perspective, we define spirituality as the quest to seek quality of life, to find balance, and to be in harmony with oneself, with your ancestors, and the divine powers. Umam Nkosazana spoke of women being erased from history. And because women have been erased from history, I think we have never been unhappy as women like we are today. And we are unhappy because we need to man up. We are unhappy because we've been devalued and belittled as a spirit. It is time that we stop sacrificing ourselves as women. The time has come, as the learners have said. The time is now to stop devaluing ourselves, and we need to stop to manning up. Because I don't know how to man up as a woman. I can only be me. And being me is what? It's caring, it's loving, it's making sure that all is okay. We need to stop suppressing our nature as who we are as women. But while we do that, we need to also understand the value that masculinity has in life. The value of masculinity, it's the same value of femininity. So until we reconcile the two values, we will forever talk of GBV. Until we understand that at some point in time, we need to construct a new order. The order that says a man has a role in life, so is a woman. A woman has a role in life. They say men are hunters and women are gatherers. So we need to understand as women what does that mean for ourselves. And then we need to also understand how do we assume that role as a gatherer.
I come from a line of broken and dispossessed women, some even fallen women. Say her name, Kratua. We have been called together today to once again to commit to a collective endeavor. We have been called here by a mother of the struggle, an oh so ordinary, extraordinary woman, Dr. Thabo Mbeki, she who leads with a duk. Many of us, when we find ourselves in spaces of power, we lead like powerful femocrats. The symbol of the duk upholds the principles of matriarchal leadership and matrifocality, the kind of leadership that never forgets the people who placed us here, who put their faith in us and asked us for guidance. Unlike the relenting crown, the duk is ever-changing, transforming from one peaked shape to a soft circular crown, to a gentle holding cloth, we can just look around the room, and back again to the pinnacle on a queen's head. This duk is beauty, it is African beauty, and it leads with the might of a mustard seed. Mrs. Mbeki's new vision, the library and the granary. The beauty of a seed is its ability to grow. It does not keep the same shape. The idea of a presidential library is also evolving, and today we want you to provide its next growth spurt. From an idea, a building design, a vision, to the embryo of a new birth, an African birth that is for the people. You, the people, have been called here today to help shape and give impetus to this vision. We need to fill the granary, not the powerful vertical silo, but the fat, capacious, and showering of grains and seeds together in the granary. I quote from Sylvia Vollenhoven in a book called Rethinking Africa. We are a people who know how to make stones speak, who have always known the importance of setting down an enduring archive. Our rock texts are testament to our understanding of the value of reaching out to our descendants. So it follows that as a people, we have not lost the ability to communicate across physical barriers and across time and space. Colonial aggression, followed by apartheid's near annihilation of the understanding of who we are as the Cohen San people, has been but a temporary disruption on our journey. We are now busy journeying from the woundedness of recent centuries to wholeness.
In my tradition, in our creation myth, God gave a woman two things. One was a stone, and the other was a seed. Both of those are devices for memory keeping. Stones keep memory, and so do seeds. And seeds pass on their memories and knowledge from generation to generation to a whole forest. And so when I saw Granary, it made a whole lot of sense to me. Because in my tradition, lots of people go into the field to create that big field that will eventually be harvested. And I think of history as a field that we're all plowing and we're all planting. And there are those who have planted before us, going way back, and there are those that are still planting today. And even as we sit, we're planting. Because we're all, as someone said, we're all stories, each and every one of us. And so once the harvest, in our tradition, once the harvest is gathered, many people help actually, and many people bring that crop, that harvest into the granary. And for me, history is not the grain. The granary stores our heritage and our memories. That is what this granary for me signifies. And as someone said, while the granary may be a solid structure that is seen by everyone in the village, the preservation of food, which is what a granary is about, doesn't only stop in the granary. The dry vegetables, for example, were stored under the eaves of the hut, where the smoke was constantly circulating so that it kept that freshness, that green freshness in those leaves. The potatoes were buried underground and kept safe and fresh for months and months. The ground grain were kept, in my language we say mulupi, where that would also keep that fresh. So what I'm talking about, I think what I want to stress is that, all these things, all these little bits of food that were kept everywhere, but were part of one thing, that food security. They were stored, they were accessed, they were consumed in different ways and at different times by different people and for different purposes as well. And that is what I see also for the granary that we want to build. It will be for different purposes, for different people. It has to be able to be accessed at different times for different purposes.